We'll move to drought-ravaged Somalia, where the starving are streaming into giant refugee camps. The international organization responsible for monitoring global hunger, in a report released on Tuesday, declared that the dire crisis triggered by Somalia's worst drought in 40 years does not constitute a famine, at least not yet. The organization, the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, determined that conditions in Somalia's worst-hit areas have come close to, but not crossed, the threshold needed to formally declare a famine. But if the drought stretches into next spring, as meteorologists expect, a famine is likely then. But Somalia has already plunged deep into that worst-case scenario, according to aid workers, doctors, and diplomats who say they are confounded by the IPC's latest assessment or believe its methodology is flawed. Tens of thousands of starving people are flooded into the camps around Baidoa in southern Somalia as the drought has intensified. Tens of thousands of starving people have actually camped around Baidoa in southern Somalia as the drought has intensified. Joining me from Mogadishu to discuss the humanitarian crisis in Somalia is the country rep, UNFPA for Somalia, Niyi Ojolakwe. Thank you so much for joining us on World Now. 8 million people are actually affected by the worst drought in over 40 years in Somalia. How do you describe the humanitarian situation in the country, especially how it has affected the women and children, looking at the fact that this wasn't the first time the African country is experiencing this?
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. From what you have said, really the situation is very, very chronic and very, very severe. For about half of the country's population, we have about 16 million people. It's a country of about 16 million people, and almost half of the population is affected at this point in time. And when we talk about the situation, you see, it is the situation of the drought is exacerbated by a vicious cycle of poverty, and also there are recurrent natural disasters that befall the country, both flood and drought. And there is also food and nutrition insecurity. There is mass displacement across the country. There's also rapid urbanization. People are coming into the urban areas, and there is high unemployment across the board, along with political instability, which is actually a major issue. And when you add that to the environmental degradation that is happening as a result of the fact that there has been no rain for the fifth season, we have had a failed rainy season. So then there is also violent conflict that is also fueled by persistent terrorism. Since the beginning of the year, we have had more than 500 incidents of terrorism. So the situation is very bad. Now, how does it affect the people? The people involved are such that we have, as a result of the drought, people are moving. They are trying to find water and trying to find food. So about 1.3 million people have been displaced as a result of that. Added to the initial problem that they used to that had been there before the drought, we have another 2 million people, of course, that are displaced. So you have a lot of people that are displaced that are not in their natural environment right now. But you see, what we generally tend to look at is how it affects the people in terms of food and water. But for us in the United Nations Population Fund, while we have agencies who look after the use of food, water, and shelter, we see this problem from the hindsight of a woman, especially women of reproductive age. So we see it from that lens, and it is from that lens that we try as much as possible to base our intervention, because nobody will look after women if we don't do that. And so coming with this problem, you see, a woman of reproductive age will have probably, when hunger sets in, along the line, there are major things that can actually happen under normal circumstances, including childbirth-related complications, for example, and also pregnancy-related morbidity and mortality also comes in. So when you put all of that together, along with the risk of gender-based violence, there's a whole issue out there. So what do we do? The United Nations Population Fund we have what is called, within the humanitarian community, we have what you call the rapid response mechanism, based on which when people are displaced, immediately when they get to somewhere, somebody should be able to give them some form of support.
Right.
So for the women and for the household, we have what we call dignity kits. So we provide dignity kits for the household and for the women. A dignity kit is something that is a package that any human being will need under normal circumstances to live a barely minimum life of dignity. So you'll be able to bath, you'll be able to comb your hair. So we put comb, we put pomade, washing soap, sanitary pads, and all of that. So basic things that will guarantee the dignity of that individual in the circumstance. So we provide that.
Right.
But apart from that, also we also make provisions. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to butt in because you also made reference to the activities of the militia, the non-state actors, because being caught between drought and Shabab militia is never a good experience for the Somalis. So these are they who are at the mercy of nature and terrorism. So is that to say that the world is not watching them unconcerned?
Well, the world has been watching, and that's why we are there, for example. But then, when there is need for more support than we currently have. We have a need that goes. For example, right now we have what we call the humanitarian response plan, which requires about $2.2 billion. But that amount is funded just above $1 billion right now. So there's a lot of resources that are required for us to be able to take this thing to scale so that we can provide support to the people. But talking about how you see it from the side of the women, it is such that apart from the issues of what a woman will face in the process of childbirth, when you say somebody is hungry and in the circumstances, if that person is a pregnant person, you can see that the implication of that will actually go very far. And at the point whereby the person wants to give birth, there will normally, even in normal circumstances, in normal population, there will be birth complications in certain areas. So we estimate that about 12,000 women in the next 3 months or so will have birth complications that can actually lead to death. So we try to provide support for that. And there is also a major issue of gender-based violence. Yeah. Gender-based violence recurs in circumstances such as this, and so we pre-position. We do a lot of mass awareness. Then also we do we provide clinical management of rape because it happens in the circumstances. And then lastly, let me just mention we have what we call women and girls safe spaces. We have what we call one-stop centers for women and also safe houses for women, apart from the services that we provide. But finally, let me also make the point that we have 69 centers across the country. That's UNFPA has 69 centers that we support across the country that provide emergency, obstetric, and newborn care for women of reproductive age.
Absolutely, it's good that the UNFPA is actually present for the people of Somalia there, because just like you said, without water the people and their livestock would continue to die. And as they said, that 2023 might be very worse for Somalia. But it's good that you're there. Somalia, the country rep, United Nations Population Fund for Somalia, Niyi Ojolakwe, thank you so much for doing what you do. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.